He was speaking with my cousins, all of whom are married to white women, about dating histories and preferences. Neither he nor my cousins are white. He said he typically prefers white women too, usually finds white women most attractive, and blamed it on growing up in the suburbs. He said most of his past girlfriends were white, and his mother thought he'd marry a white woman. He said that, fortunately, fate had other plans and led him to me. I don't find it very fortunate. I wasn't at the table, but he knew I could hear him. On the way home, he tried to apologize. I said, "Don't apologize, because he has the right to like what he likes. And if that's white women, that's his right." He said that wasn't what he meant. I was taking it wrong, and he loved me. I just said okay to shut him up. I basically hid out in the guest room for a few days and slept a lot. I have a lot of trauma surrounding my race. I grew up in all-white environments and was always hearing crushes talk about how they would never date a girl of my race. Middle school, high school, college. It was always, she's cool, but I don't date task girls. Always the last choice until I was an adult and out of that world. It gave me a deep self-hatred that I didn't cope with until 21. Frankly, I still don't like my race, but it can't be changed, and I just cope. I made a thread and got some honest, harsh responses saying I needed to at least talk to him before jumping to divorce. I thanked him for giving me the space I needed. I asked him why he preferred white women. He tried to dodge and say they were familiar growing up in the suburbs. I asked him what he liked about white women more than women of my race. He said he liked light hair and eyes. Ouch. My hair and eyes are so dark, they're almost black. I told him I wouldn't have married him if I'd known he felt this way, and I regretted marrying him. He wants to go couples therapy. He said he didn't exclusively date white women. He dated women of color too. He mentioned how beautiful I was when we met and how he fell in love. It felt like him saying what I wanted to hear, so I won't leave. I asked him if he chose white women over women of color if all things were equal. He said he's never been in that scenario. I said, but if he was? He said, the one I liked the best. I said, but you liked white women the best. He said he meant of the women he found attractive. They tended to be white, but he didn't think other women were ugly. But that's not what he said that night. He specifically said preferred. Preferred means all things being equal. You'll pick white. You'll only pick the other race if she's exceptional because she has to compensate for being non-white. I don't want someone who sees my race as a flaw I must compensate for. I called my mom and sisters. My mom said something that was so comforting. You have every right to be loved the way you want. My sisters were split on what to do, but both said they supported me in whatever I chose. I was scared to divorce with no support, but now I think most of my friends and family will support even if they don't agree. If I stay, it will unalive me. After hearing I'm at the bottom of the racial hierarchy all my life, my husband puts me at the bottom of it too. I loved everything about my husband. He was my ideal in every way. He doesn't feel the same, and that's the most painful. He's the love of my life, but I'm his consolation prize. My features aren't his ideal. It's just going to trigger me every time I wake up next to him. I don't want a divorce, but how does this not become bitter and toxic? I wish I hadn't married him, and I'm not his preference. Neither of us can take back our words. He should have married his preference. I don't know why he married me, and how did he think that convo wouldn't hurt? But I'm glad because I deserve to know. I thought about staying single forever, but I know there are men that prefer women like me. If I stay with him, I'll never find that. This isn't the love I wanted. I'm not his ideal woman. I can't change my desire to be with a man who sees me as his ideal any more than he can change finding white women most attractive. If I can't be first to my own husband, what is the point? Yet, I have enjoyed our relationship for these 5 years. We've had a lot of fun, and so I thought passion. I'll miss him immensely. The thought of him not being a daily presence in my life anymore feels empty and joyless. These few days in the guest room, I've missed him. I'm going to stay with my parents for a few weeks. I need some distance because I'm tempted to say something cruel to him to make him feel like I feel. But that wouldn't be fair to him. He has a right to his preference. Maybe this is miscommunication. Preferences are huge to me. I rejected every man that didn't fit all my criteria. I wasn't going to be happy if I settled. I was told I was picky and would end up single. But it paid off, oops, and I got exactly what I wanted. I loved his hair, eyes, lips, voice, beliefs, hobbies, height, race, skin tone. I loved the length of his freaking eyelashes. I felt like I'd hit the lotto because I got everything on my list. Preferences to him seem like small things that he would like a woman to have, but it's not a big deal. But that doesn't help. He'd like me to be white, but it's okay if I'm not. Being okay to my own husband, whatever I decide, I'm going to therapy. This entire ordeal has triggered me, and now I'm back to all that self-hatred, and I'm going back to that dark place. I really wish we hadn't married. He said he doesn't deserve to lose his marriage over one mistake, and he's right. I don't see any way out of this. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I understand how you feel because I'm non-white and experienced a lot of racial discrimination before. However, I noticed that your husband doesn't have a problem with your race. You have a problem with your own race. You said, I still don't like my race, and ouch! My hair and eyes are so dark they are almost black. I have dark brown eyes and black hair. I am very proud of them. They agree with my facial features, and I think I look very cute with my black eyes and hair. I'm sure you also look very cute with your dark hair and eyes. When your husband said, fortunately, fate had other plans, he meant that you're so special, and he feels lucky to meet you. That shows he loves you very much. That doesn't mean he's settled for you. A lot of your behaviors after this incident scream low self-esteem and insecurity. It would be a big pity to throw away this relationship over one loving sentence of his. It is not a problem of his. It is your own problem. If you still want to be happy in the future, you have to go see a therapist to deal with this issue. Comment 2. Up to you. But from where I sit, you are placing a whole lot of value on physical appearance, and you keep pressing him to talk about his past attractions. He grew up around mostly white people in his formative years. Heck, why such attractions are formed, who knows? For the longest time back to kindergarten, I was attracted to boys with red hair. I came to realize that pre-kindergarten, my mom's best friend had a red-haired son who was born around the same time as me, who knew that my toddler experience would have me favoring red hair. Side note, my husband is not a redhead. He's the love of my life, but I'm his consolation prize. He married you, not because he couldn't find a white woman with his preferred hair and eye color. He married you because he found you beautiful, inside and out, and chose to spend the rest of his life with you. Skin, hair, and eye color are just not at the top of his list of priorities for a wife. Now, for the update, thanks for the comments on my last post. Things have escalated since then, and I'm struggling to make sense of it all. The day after I decided to stay with my parents, my husband showed up unannounced. He was desperate, saying he couldn't eat or sleep, that he was losing his mind without me. He begged me to come back, to go to therapy together, to give us another chance. I was firm, told him I needed space, but he wouldn't leave. He sat on the doorstep for hours until my dad had to tell him to go home. I felt guilty seeing him like that, but I was also angry. How could he not understand the pain he caused? I was torn between my hurt and the memories of our good times. I didn't let him see it, but inside, I was a mess. 2 days later, my sister called. She'd been talking to him, trying to help him understand why his words cut so deep. She told me he was genuinely clueless about the impact of his preferences, that he really did love me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was second best. Then, my best friend dropped the news. She'd seen my husband out with a woman, laughing, touching her arm. My heart sank. Was he moving on already? I confronted him over the phone, and he was adamant it was just a coworker, a meeting about a project. I wanted to believe him, but doubt crept in. I decided to take action. I went through his phone records, his emails. I found nothing incriminating, but the trust was broken. I felt ashamed for snooping, yet justified because of my suspicions. It was a cycle of doubt, and self-loathing. I agreed to one therapy session. It was intense. He cried, said he never realized how his words could be so hurtful, that he was sorry. The therapist suggested it was a deep-seated issue from his upbringing, something he hadn't even been aware of. I saw a glimmer of hope, but it was overshadowed by my pain. After the session, he asked me to come home. I was hesitant, but I missed our life together. I agreed to a trial period to see if we could work through this. It felt like the wrong choice, but I was desperate for some normalcy, for the love we had. Back home, things were tense. We were walking on eggshells, trying to rebuild trust. I saw him making an effort, being more attentive, but the image of him with that woman haunted me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was compromising my self-worth. One evening, I came home early and heard laughter from our bedroom. My heart raced as I pushed the door open, only to find him on a video call with his sister, sharing a joke. I felt foolish, paranoid, but the damage was done. I couldn't trust him, and I couldn't trust myself. The next day, I made a choice. I told him I was leaving, that I couldn't live like this. He was devastated, pleaded with me to reconsider, but I was resolute. I packed my bags and left, feeling a mix of relief and deep sorrow. I'm staying with a friend now, trying to piece my life back together. I'm still going to therapy, working through my issues. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I need to find peace with myself before I can think about us. Thanks for reading. My stepson expects me to pay for college after years of disrespect. So I show him the door and teach him a lesson in gratitude. Background: been with my partner for a long time, 3 children, 20-year-old female, biological, 18-year-old male, 25-year-old male. Step: having been involved with their lives from a younger age, the blended family concept wasn't as easy as I imagined. Children are smarter than you think and focus well on their surrounding environment. I would describe my relationship with the older son as very good. He initially was cautious and didn't trust me, which is normal. However, now we're quite close and open with each other. The youngest, not so much. I did not want to pressure him to like me or accept me, so the process was very gradual. As a kid, he wasn't too keen on activities and wished I would go away now. Occasionally in public settings, he referred to me by various terms as if he didn't know who I was and just found out I'm a guy with mom and sometimes mom's boyfriend, despite being married at the time. I'm assuming he viewed the term boyfriend with some more favorable meaning or significance back then. My wife tried too during that time, but he had already made up his mind even at that age, and I never took it in a negative light. Normal step-parent situations. As he grew older, our relationship became more formal and surface level. Basically, it's only about what is strictly necessary. At 15 years of age, he said it's not about me specifically, but I'm just not a parental figure to him, and I ought to establish a clear boundary. He's not interested in any conversation with me, no discussion, nothing. I'm a person who's sharing the living location, nothing more. And given I'm not a parent, I have no business getting involved in any major decisions of his. He's going to decide what's best for himself by himself. That was admittedly very difficult for me. But nonetheless, I eventually agreed to this boundary. Essentially, if there was a decision or general life situation, he doesn't ask for my advice, nor do I provide said advice to begin with. You do you, because I'm just the man who happens to live here. So I don't get a say in any of that. Again, as hard as it was to hear those words, I did agree. He wants nothing to do with me, and has announced clearly and directly as much. It doesn't get simpler than that, and my wife and I felt that he was old enough to be making such a decision, and if that's what he wants, then so be it. It's not something I've done. It's just the way it is. For additional context, my eldest has at least made an effort to understand my point of view and allowed me to be some part of his world, even if we sometimes disagree. I recognize that this effort begins with me, and it isn't their obligation, but we eventually worked it out together to develop a strong mutual bond in a way that I couldn't with my other son. He and our daughter get along super well too. They are quite simply siblings in every sense of the term, though her and the youngest is somewhat of a different story. At least he does converse with her in regular terms and not legalese. but you can tell they don't like to be in the same room or spend more than about 10-15 minutes together before a verbal fight emerges. Now for the financial part of the story. My partner and I have worked our assess off to provide what I would describe as a comfortable life for all of them. They've gotten pretty much what they wanted, within reason, of course. And we were fortunate enough to support our eldest and our daughter through higher education. I've been really involved in that process and provided help and guidance along the way, just like any parent would. Importantly, meaning there was communication, back and forth dialogue. Fast forward to now, the youngest is in the planning for college phase. Naturally, I provided no input. He was free to choose whatever educational path he wished for and do whatever he wants. This includes what subjects he finds himself interested in, what stuff he's applying to, the whole deal. None of my business, and specifically, per his request to not interfere with his life. However, he expects me to foot the bill. All of it. I was taken aback by this, considering his decline to interact with me in any meaningful way for such a lengthy period of time. You don't want a relationship with me? That's fine. I understand, and I won't push the matter any further. But now you demand a relationship to my wallet? That's not going to happen so quickly. And I informed him I'm not his personal ATM. Maybe the comment was unjustified in hindsight, but it was in the heat of the moment. He flipped, declaring that I've never been there for him, wasn't there for his big moments, generally apathetic. And what really struck me as odd, a financial aggressor. Now you're free to label me whatever you wish. I don't care. But an aggressor? After all this time? I wasn't having any of it, of course, and I told him essentially, I'm not going to entertain his fantasy world. I'm no longer his bank account. And if he thinks he's with an aggressor, he's welcome to actually do something useful, get paid, and get out of here if that's what he thinks. Which I knew he wasn't going to do. Yeah, we totally got burned out 24/7 and reached our breaking points multiple times to be able to maintain a decent life for the needs of 3 kids at once because of abuse. Now, I'm conflicted. My partner thinks I kind of overreacted, made unnecessary comments, and could have phrased my viewpoint a bit better, but is neutral on the college situation. She says anybody who goes through what I've had to deal with and then gets thrown an outright proclamation like this would feel the same way. This is basically somebody telling you the equivalent of, yo, frick you. Also, hey bro, you got a few $1,000s? Okay, thanks. Bye. Straight to your face. But at the same time, it's already a tense situation. He might not deserve it, but this amounts to choosing a golden child and ignoring the rest. And if there was any hope in the metaphorical door being left open slightly, it's now permanently shut off. So treat it as a moment of rage, but not follow through. We do things sometimes because we have to, not because we want to. But I'm just confused. I don't know what to do anymore. Are those the actions of somebody who wants me? Am I even a human in all this? Or just a computer terminal where you press the denomination and out comes the cash? Can you hurt somebody so deeply? Let it be known in no uncertain terms you actively do not welcome their presence to all but frick off, and yet have the courage to even make such a demand of them. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He's not interested in any conversation with me, no discussion, nothing. I'm a person who's sharing the living location, nothing more. And given I'm not a parent, I have no business getting involved in any major decisions of his. He's going to decide what's best for himself by himself. He stated very clearly what you are. Basically, a silent roommate. Well, those aren't who you demand pay for your college education. He certainly can decide what's best for him, but not when it involves your money. Actions have consequences, as he is finding out. Comment 2, I responded on your other post. He gets what he gave out. Step-parents are not the de facto bank when the time comes for big expenses after they have actively shunned the other parent. They don't have to accept them as a parental figure, but can't go around treating them as strangers and then expect for bills to be paid. He has a mother, father, and grandparent that can pay for school. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for another update. 3 months ago, I never would have guessed things would spiral the way they did. It started with a bang, literally. My youngest son, in a fit of anger, punched a hole in the wall. The reason? I refused to pay for his college tuition up front. The tension in the house was thicker than ever. My wife, trying to play peacemaker, suggested a family meeting. It was a disaster. My eldest stepson, usually my ally, sided with his brother, saying I was being unfair. My daughter stayed quiet, her eyes darting around, clearly uncomfortable. I thought back to when my eldest stepson and I bonded over fixing up an old car. It wasn't just about the car, it was about trust, about building something together. That trust was now being tested. My youngest son's argument was that I had paid for his siblings' education, so why not his? He didn't care that our relationship was non-existent. To him, I was just a source of funds. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the money, but about the principle. I wanted to support him, but not without some form of mutual respect. He scoffed at that, accusing me of playing favorites. The argument escalated. My wife, usually the voice of reason, was torn. She understood my point, but also felt for her son. She suggested a compromise. We pay for his first semester, and he tries to rebuild our relationship. I was against it. It felt like rewarding bad behavior. But when I looked at my wife, I saw the strain in her eyes. This was tearing her apart, so I agreed. The first semester came and went. My son's grades were decent, but there was no attempt at reconciliation. He barely spoke to me, except to ask for the next semester's tuition. I felt like a fool. I had hoped for a change, but there was none. My wife urged patience, but I was running out of it. Then the bomb dropped. My daughter, who had been quiet throughout all this, confessed that she was pregnant. She was scared and unsure what to do. My wife and I assured her we'd support her decision, whatever it was. But my youngest son saw it as an opportunity. He argued that if we could support her, we could certainly afford his tuition. The audacity of it left me speechless. I snapped. I told him that if he couldn't show the slightest bit of respect or gratitude, then he could pay his own way through college. My wife was horrified. She said I was being too harsh, that he was still just a kid. But he wasn't a kid. He was an adult making adult demands, without adult responsibilities. The fallout was immediate. My youngest son moved out, crashing with friends. My wife was heartbroken, blaming me for his departure. My eldest stepson was disappointed in me, and my daughter was caught in the middle of a family falling apart. I had hoped my decision would be a wake-up call for my son. Instead, it pushed him further away. My wife and I argued constantly, the stress straining our marriage. I lay awake at night, wondering if I had made the right choice. I thought about my stepson's car, how we had worked on it together, how it had brought us closer. I had lost that with my youngest son, and now I was losing my family. The house was quieter, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the silence of a broken home. I still believe in principles, in mutual respect, but the cost was higher than I ever imagined. I lost my son, and maybe my wife too. Thanks for reading. My ex-husband lets his girlfriend play mom to our kids, so I took them to court. And now she's banned from seeing them. Context: my husband and I got a divorce 3 years ago, but still see each other on a weekly basis due to our young children. If it's relevant, we divorced because he cheated on me with his assistant, who is now his girlfriend. In the divorce, I agreed to give him weekends with our kids, and we spend family time together frequently. Up until recently, that hasn't been a problem. I have always tried to be civil with my ex-husband around my kids because I do not want them to have a bad relationship with their father. But recently, he has started to bring his girlfriend to our one-on-one time with our kids. He started bringing her along without asking me a couple of months ago. I expressed to him how it made me feel and that this was meant to be family time. But he insisted that she was family to the kids and they should get used to her being around. I later brought it up to her, hoping that she would see my side woman to woman, but she instead told me that if it bothered me so much, I might as well just not go. It got even worse a couple of weeks ago, when she started insisting that my children call her Mom, even in front of me. My kids seem to like her a lot as she is always bribing them with candy. Once again, I tried to talk to their father about it, but he told me that she had never had any kids of her own, that she loved them as if they were her own, and that it was selfish of me to try and stop her from seeing them, which, to be clear, I am not doing. I feel as though I am being replaced not only as a wife, but also as a mother to my children. My ex and his girlfriend always have the whole weekend to hang out with my kids, so it is not as if this is the only chance she has to spend time with them. I have never really liked her, but once again tried to be kind to her for my kids' sake. I don't know what to do, and I can't help but feel like my children are being manipulated. Please help me. Update. Thank you, everyone, for your words of encouragement and your tough love. I needed a wake-up call, and I have gotten in touch with my lawyer. I realized that at some point in my life, I became passive and stopped fighting back. My children, both of whom are very young, do not deserve a fake family. I saw many people telling me that I need to let go of what our family used to be. And as much as it hurts, I have realized that this is true. I will no longer be spending time with my ex-husband and his girlfriend, beyond drop-offs and pickups. I contacted them and let them know that if she continues to force my kids to refer to her as mom, I will be taking further legal action. I will admit that I have been spending a lot of time crying over the past 18 hours, which is why it took me so long to update. I plan on taking a day off of work, and I will be talking to my children. I will tell them that their father's girlfriend is not and will never be their mom, and that if she tries to make them call her that name again, they should inform me straight away. A few people told me to tell my kids about my ex's infidelity. I will not be doing that. I refuse to alienate my children from their father due to something that happened in our relationship. I made it clear that their father's girlfriend is not their mother, and that is as far as I will go. I have realized that I have been using family time not for the benefit of my kids, as I previously claimed, but for my own selfish reasons. I have been in denial about the divorce for 3 years, and family time was a way for me to pretend everything was normal. I think that is why my husband's girlfriend's presence there was so jarring for me. I now realize the error of my ways and am frankly quite disgusted with myself. I feel pathetic for clinging onto a relationship with my ex-husband, even after he cheated on me and left me for his assistant. As I previously stated, I've been in contact with my lawyer about the girlfriend trying to make my children call her mom. I never would have thought of this if it wasn't for your comments, and you were all right. My lawyer says that due to these new updates, the situation may change. I will update you all once I know more on that front. In the meantime, I plan to focus on healing myself, and I will start attending therapy. I saw some questions, and I will try to respond to those to the best of my ability. Once again, thank you all so much. Your advice may well have changed the trajectory of my life, and I wish you all the happiness in the world. I wasn't sure what the protocol is for updates, as I am new to Reddit, but please let me know if I have done something wrong. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I know this is hard to hear, but you need to make a break from your ex-husband. It's been 3 years. If you wish to have some time with your kids on a weekend, maybe pick them up early on Sunday. I know it is hard and unfair, but he isn't your husband anymore. He has made the decision to be with her, and will always side with her on things like this now. Save yourself the trauma, as you won't win here, as much as I sympathize. Comment 2. I understand that you are trying to amicably co-parent, but I think you need to move towards giving him the kids on the weekends and maintaining distance when you have to be together. I understand where you are coming from, though. This is adding insult to injury. Now for the update. Thank you for sticking around for this update. So, the situation with my ex and his girlfriend went from bad to worse. Last week I found out she's been telling my kids that I don't want to see them anymore. That's why I wasn't at the last few family gatherings. My heart sank. I couldn't believe she'd stoop so low. The kids, confused and hurt, confronted me about it. It took all I had to keep my composure and reassure them that I love them more than anything. I was furious, but I kept it together for the kids. I had to take action. I called my ex, ready for a showdown, but he just brushed me off, saying I was overreacting. His girlfriend was trying to erase me from my own children's lives. I hung up on him, my hands shaking with anger. The next day, I got a call from the school. My youngest had gotten into a fight. He'd never been in trouble before. When I got there, he was so upset, saying that other kids were teasing him about having two moms. It broke my heart. I knew this was all because of her lies. I decided enough was enough. I couldn't let this woman destroy my family any further. I gathered evidence, text messages, and even voice recordings from the kids, talking about the things she'd said. I took everything to my lawyer. He was shocked and said this could be considered emotional manipulation of the children. We filed for an emergency hearing. The day of the hearing was tense. My ex and his girlfriend showed up, all smug, thinking they had the upper hand. But when my lawyer presented the evidence, their faces dropped. The judge was appalled by their behavior. He ruled that she was to have no contact with the kids until a full hearing could be scheduled. My ex was silent, and she was in tears. I felt a wave of relief, but I wasn't happy about it. This was a mess that should never have happened. After the hearing, things at home were tough. The kids were struggling to understand why they couldn't see their dad's girlfriend. I had to explain that sometimes adults make mistakes, and that we need to make sure everyone is safe and happy. They seemed to get it, but I could tell they were still processing everything. Then, out of the blue, my ex showed up at my door, alone. He looked defeated. He apologized, said he didn't realize how far things had gone. He admitted he should have listened to me. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face, but I let him in. We talked for hours. He agreed to go to counseling with the kids and me, to try and repair the damage. It's been pretty up and down of a week. I've been through every emotion possible, but I'm hopeful that we can move forward from this. The kids are resilient, and I'm proud of how they're handling things. I'm just trying to be the best mom I can be, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family. Thank you for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.